Welcome, welcome, welcome. What is good? I'm back and I'm real quick with it today. Right? I wanted to just break down some basics of guess what? We talking about astrology today. And the thing is a lot of people don't really understand how to read their birth charts. A lot of y'all like to go out and literally get these how can you say generated charts. These bot generated charts, and what happens with these bot generated charts is you kind of end up with these cookie cutter readings that aren't necessarily tailor made to you specifically. So what I'm here to do is to give you that basic level of knowledge so that you can look at any chart and really know what's going on here. And so the basics of looking at your birth chart is understanding that there's 12 houses and what those 12 houses mean, knowing that they're ruled by all the zodiacs. So a lot of people think that, oh, what's my ascendant, right? Which your ascendant would be right here, which is your first house. And then they're like, where's my sun sign? Where's my moon sign? Well, you got all of those different planets, right? They can pop up in any different house, right? So the sun and moon could be here, right, in the sixth house, right, or the sun could be in the eighth house, right? But what does the eighth house mean, right? What does the sixth house exact actually mean? Okay, so that's what I'm here to break down to y'all today of what each one of these houses mean. So, for starters, we're going to take a look at the first house. So you have the first house, which is your ascendant. Now, what does it actually mean to have an ascendant, right? Right? Because people are like, oh, is your ascendant, is that your rising sign or something like that? Like, yes, it is. The ascendant is your rising sign. And so you could ask a question and be like, well, why is Aries right there? Well, Aries has the energy of starting new things, right? Aries is all about having that energy to spark that fire. It might not have enough steam to keep burning all night unless you tend to it, right? But it's starting new things. So when it comes to the ascendant, that's how this energy plays out in your life. It's how you handle new situations, how you actually go about doing new things, and Aries is ruled by that house. Now you can have any one of these zodiac signs in this house on your chart, or multiple, but we're not going to get into that. We just defining what the houses mean, right? Because this shit gets really deep when you start breaking down everything. So when we move on to another color here, you'll start to notice that each house, there's a reason why each house is ruled by each zodiac. So we go to the second house, and that second house is going to be Taurus. All right. Now, Taurus is represented by what? Foundation. Is represented by nurturing energy. Is represented by the DNA that you get when you're thinking about the cow and you thinking about that type of energy. What we're looking at is stability. We're looking at your straight ancestral connection, right? That's why the cow is so sacred throughout all of these different religions, right? Because every religion is relating back to astrology in some type of way through symbology, right? But the second house is responsible for what? I know I said Taurus is ruled by Taurus, but what does Taurus have in common? Money. So your second house is responsible for letting you know what you deal with as far as situations that come into your life dealing with money, right? What is your personal values on the world? What did your family give you when you were growing up as far as influence that affects how you perceive yourself compared to other people? Do you have a complex where you feel like, oh, um, unless I have this, then I don't feel like I'm as valuable as those people because they have that. And unknowingly, we pass these different traits down through the second house, right? It's also the house of how valuable you see yourself, how much value you put on relationships with other people. So, taking a look at the second house really allows you to see the type of glasses that you're looking at reality in, because a lot of the times when you shift where you place your values, a lot of other things in your life actually change because you can start putting energy in other places. And so when it comes to shadow work and how it relates to your birth chart, understand that these energies that you see in your birth chart, they're not 100% finite because they shift and they move and go in connection with the Earth's own universal cycles, because you have your own birth chart and the Earth has its natural wheel of energetic cycles that it goes across, right? Your birth chart is just a snapshot of the Earth's energetic cycle at that moment in time you came into this reality. So understand that. Now, when we go to the third house, right, we're going to be looking at communication. Okay. Now, it's easy to see here it's easy to see here what zodiac sign actually rules the third house, the house of communication, and that's Gemini. I don't think you've ever met a Gemini that isn't a good talker. You know what I mean? Like every Gemini that I know is a really good talker. My grandmother was a Gemini. She hop on the phone, talk about this person, go the next talk about the next person. But it's all about communication. Whatever you see in this house, in the third house, that's why it's ruled by Gemini, because Gemini is a master of communication. They can communicate from all perspectives. They can make you feel good. They can make, like, it's just the perspective of being able to transfer information going back and forth, right? That is what's in the third house. How you talk, how you learn things, how you receive information, right? When two people have different signs going on in the third house, or they have conflicting signs, they could be saying the same shit to each other, but the conversation isn't able to move forward because the energies aren't matching. It's the same type of message, but your energy isn't in alignment in order for y'all to make that connection. And that's why everybody doesn't get along with everybody. It's not that, oh, you don't like that person. Everybody think that you gotta like everybody. You're not going to like everybody, because it's universal law for us not to like everybody. It's universal law for us to not be able to communicate with everybody. There's certain energies that don't go together, right? But it's your obligation to balance yourself out so that you can make as many connections as possible. And that's what the third house is about. It's about being able to express yourself. Whenever you see blockages in your life of not being able to talk, not being able to learn, it's because you got some type of blockage here. Like you could have Saturn, right? Because remember, the planets that pop up in these houses are going to accent them, give them different characteristics that affect your life, right? So let's say you got Saturn here in the third house, you're gonna have a difficult time talking and communicating with people, right? Because Saturn is about restriction and boundaries. All right, so let's go to the next one, which is the fourth house. Okay. Now here we got the fourth house. This is the house of your mother. The fourth house is so big. This is childhood, right? Excuse my handwriting. It's kind of hard to write on this little tablet. All right. Mother and childhood. That's what we're going to leave it at here. All right. And that's going directly connection to your fourth house. Now, you're like, how the hell does my fourth house have to do with my connection with my mother? Everything that you see in this house, right? It witnessed itself, right? This is Cancer. Cancer is at home in the fourth house. The fourth house is responsible for literally all the experiences that you had before you were able to make decisions for yourself, right? So that covers your childhood. So how people treated you, what you experienced and witnessed as far as relationships, right? Did you witness toxic relationships? Did you witness abuse? Did you get the nurturing that you needed from your mother, right? That is what is in the fourth house. Whatever planets you have here, whatever sign you have here is going to show you exactly what you dealt with, right? And if you have planets like Pluto and shit like that, you got planets like Aries, then it could be some communication issues or some blockages between that connection and you being able to receive love versus giving love. If you had issues with your mother, right? Because every child needs that level of nurturing. And if you don't have that level of nurturing, then it can be really easy to to have your heart chakra turn into some type of blockage later on down the line, right? And you see that manifest within relationships. Okay. Now, moving on to the fifth house, I wonder if I can clean this up a little bit. So, fifth house, we have your gifts, right? The fifth house, you have your gifts. And there's no coincidence that the fifth house is actually ruled by Leo, because when you think about Leo, Leo is bright. Leo is shining. Leo is just, strong confidence, is the epitome of being able to exact your will in this reality, right? Um, when you see me, my ascendant, it's Leo. I'm presenting myself. I'm coming to you this way all the time. Like, this type of energy is dominant. It's in your face, and it's unwavering. There's a level of non-doubt that comes along with this because it's your natural ability. So whatever you see in this house right here, it's going to carry this type of energy to where there's nothing anybody else can fucking tell you. This is your shit, and you confident at it. I don't care if you think that you're the most uncomfortable person or you're the most awkward person in any other situation. There's something that you're fucking good at that can't nobody tell you shit about, right? A lot of people have spiritual abilities. A lot of people have gift and art talents. And your talent might be communication. It might be some type of, you know, I mean, the possibilities are literally endless, right? I can't sit up here and name every single gift that every human being has in this video, but what I'm here to tell you is that you have one. And if you haven't tapped into it, you need to take a look into your fifth house, because this goes along with you starting to fulfill your life purpose, right? A lot of the times, some gifts might just be you having a great relationship with your children when it's been generations within your family that didn't. That could be your gift, right? Now, let's go ahead and move on to the sixth house, okay? So the sixth house, that is going to be your adversities, right? So the sixth house, we have Virgo here. Now, why would the sixth house be ruled by Virgo? Virgo is the sign of critique. Virgo is the sign of inner analysis, right? When you see Virgo in the sixth house, which is at home here, you see a lot of people getting into these relationships because they want to fix people, right? They feel like they're incomplete. So, and that incompleteness comes from not necessarily getting the love that they needed, which you'll see that being reflected in the fourth house. And then it gets directly transferred into the sixth house, which comes into different adversities of things that you need to overcome, right? Those are created by what you lacked as a child. So Virgo is about analysis, being able to take a look at yourself and say, hey, this is wrong. Let me be able to move forward. And depending on what you have in this situation, Virgo is the greatest because you can do that. If you don't have Virgo, some people can't see their own faults, right? So it's easy to get caught up in repeated cycles because this wheel spins. This chart that y'all see in here, this shit spins. Every year you come back around with the same energies, with the same people, and it's up to you acting out the will of God in order to shift and manipulate through these different energies, right? And so that's why you see here the sixth house, right? You start something and you end something, right? You see how the duality, you got the first house over here with the Aries. Oh, let's start it. And then you got the sixth house over here for the adversities. Oh, let's end it. But if you don't figure it out, you're going to start it over again. Right. So now let's go ahead and go into the seventh house, which is relationships. Okay. Where can I fit this? Let me, there we go. Alrighty. So, all right. So, seventh house, relationships. Now, the thing about the seventh house in your relationships is a lot of the times the relationships that you are in as an adult are just duplications of relationships that you've seen as a child, whether it's not your parents directly or people or family members that have been around you that you've seen. So you're downloading all of this shit as a kid, right? And time doesn't necessarily exist, so the universe is already seeing this shit happening. So don't think about the download process as like, oh, if I didn't experience that, would I have done it? No, like you came in to experience that, right? So don't think too deep about it. But everything that you experience as a child before like the age of 7, it goes into your subconscious mind as different little pieces of reality that as you move about and you continue to grow, your spirit, your soul pulls from all those different little experiences to create your life as an adult. And it's up to you to do things to shift yourself within in order to change what is being pulled to you, what is being brought to you based off of your inner child programming, right? And so the where we see that affect us the most is in the relationships in the seventh house with being able to not being able to set proper boundaries, putting ourselves last, not taking proper care of oneself, right? It's basically like because nobody got what they needed in their childhood, or they got too much of what they needed in their childhood, right? It causes an imbalance in whatever relationship, whether it's a mommy issue or a daddy issue. And y'all know what I mean by mommy issues and daddy issues, right? And those mommy issues and daddy issues turn into codependencies, right? But let's go ahead and move forward. Which the next house that I have is even more important than the last house, because if you can't transition, right? Because we talk about the house of change. This is where people are like, oh, I don't want to get into astrology because you're gonna be able to see how you die. Well, the eighth house is the house of transition, and I don't even think I spelled that right. I'm just gonna put change, okay? The eighth house is the house of change. All right. And what you see here is Scorpio, because the thing is that most people, if you're not God, if you're not operating in your godhood, if you haven't started accessing your God abilities, then the things that you need to do to change are going to be hidden. So hidden to the fact that I can come to you and tell you straight to your face what the fuck you need to do in order to fix your situation, and you can't even receive it. Like you're gonna have emotions and all kind of different blockages come up to stop you, right? So it's about how you handle transitions, right? That's why Scorpio is here. That's the eighth house. Depending on what you have in this house, that could determine how hard it is for you to see change, for you to notice when you do need to change. That's why that Virgo here, the adversities, the sixth house and the eighth house go hand in hand together. Okay. Now, when we go to the ninth house, we're looking at um, your spirituality, or like your religious inclination, your inclination to be charitable, to give to other people, well, also your inclination to get into spiritual development. How likely are you to dabble into the occult? How likely are you to look beyond the unseen? Right? Because in order to make a change and things of that nature, oftentimes you have to go beyond the unseen. This is why you see people that want to go through super changes, they go through religion first and shit like that. But that's the watered down version of the universal laws at play, right? Because all religion is based off of these 12 zodiac signs and the planets. Every god, every every fucking mythological story from every culture is just breaking this down in a way that humans can understand it. So with that being said, the ninth house is occult, right? Occult. How likely are you to dabble into the secrets beyond what is just normal common information, right? How likely are you to go beyond religion? That's the ninth house right here. That's why you have Sagittarius here, because Sagittarius is all about elevation and the ascension. Sagittarius is the zodiac of the philosophy. Sagittarius is the zodiac of the teacher, right? Are you the person that comes and strives to be better and to gain information? You're going to see that here. All right, so let's go into the 10th house. Okay, 10th house, we have the house of the father. All right, the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn, as you can see. And Capricorn is what? Restriction. Capricorn is boundaries. Saturn is home in Capricorn, right? When you think about the energy of Capricorn, people who Capricorns can come off kind of cold, right? But it's about that level of structure, right? When you look at the 10th house, it's going to show you your connection with your father and what you're likely to do to be successful. Some people like to call this the house of career. No, this is the house of father, because you most likely aren't likely to get shit done unless you have some this type of energy. It doesn't have to be your father directly, right? But if you got this type of energy in a positive type of way, it sets you up to be successful in other things you do, like as far as fulfilling your path. Now, if you got some fucked up situations, you'll see all kind of other planets in here. Like if you got Aries in here and shit like that in your 10th house, then it's showing that your father created conflict for your mother while you was in the womb. You know what I mean? Like it gets pretty deep when it comes to this shit. So the 10th house is what you're to do to be successful. It's the life achievement award, right? And that's really tied to your relationship with your father because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the 11th house, which is destiny. All right. So the 11th house you see here, you have Aquarius. It's ruled by Aquarius. You have destiny or the house of friends, the house of influence, right? When it comes to this Aquarian energy, it rules this house because Aquarius is always out for an adventure. Aquarius always is out to be forward thinking, right? And it's people that come into your life that pull you and shift your mind and heart to move into different ways, right? Your environment and the people you deal with are the ones who influence you, right? That's why this is the house of friends. That's why this is the house of destiny. If depending on what you have here, it could be tough for you to make friends and keep them. Depending on what you have here, you could be that one that is the driving force in your circle that is responsible for helping people, ascend. That's what you see in my house, right? Especially these days. I'm an Aquarius, right? All right, so that's it right there with the 11th house, the house of friends and how they affect you, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. A lot of times people feel like they can't do things without certain people, right? Or certain people in your life influencing you in a negative way, keeping you bogged down mentally, right? Because this changes when you go through a spiritual awakening. You see it here in the 11th house because the people around you change, right? So let's go ahead and move on to the 12th house, and we're gonna wrap this thing up. So when we're looking at the 12th house, we got the house of spirituality. This is the house of your spiritual connection. All right, let me get this thing for you right here. So we're gonna call this the house of ancestors. All right. So when you're looking at this 12th house, you see that it's ruled by Pisces because Pisces is always right there on the cusp of being in this reality and being in the subconscious realm, right? Pisces' biggest job is to stay grounded. Like, you get what I'm saying? And that's why you see it here in the 12th house, because the 12th house is what takes you, is you can look here and see your past life. And you can also look here and see your ancestral connection as well as your level of natural spiritual connection. You see, the ninth house, that's about the knowledge of spirituality, right? The 12th house is about the natural connection that you have to spirituality, right? So you got people that can't even talk about this shit like I can as far as astrology, but they're naturally gifted in, as far as psychic ability. And they might even be in a mental hospital because they pick up on what other people are thinking and shit, and they don't even know it, right? So that's one example of having an imbalance here in this 12th house. You see a lot of people with mental illnesses have heavy gifts, heavy 12th house energy, but no family inheritance to be able to hone that type of ability. And if that's you, then you need to go ahead and come to me so you can learn how to meditate, because I'm here to teach you guys this. All of these are energies at play that are on a cycle, and the more you understand what you're actually dealing with, the more it looks like Lego pieces that you can actually build with, and you get better at it the more you practice, right? Eventually you'll be able to create these beautiful pieces that is actually aspects of your life, and that's what we're here to do. And so take a look at that 12th house. You're going to be able to go back into your past life. Take a look at the 12th house. You're going to be able to see your ancestral connection as well as your innate spiritual connection without any outside sources. But other than that, that's astrology 101. You got 12 houses, 12 zodiac signs, and then you got the 9 planets. We'll get into the planets at another time, maybe in astrology 102. But peace, if you got any questions, feel free to inbox me. I do full birth chart readings as well, and I do meditation sessions as well as mentorships. So if that's something that you're interested in, I highly encourage y'all to check out my website, soulfulascension.com. Okay. Man, it's kind of difficult to write on this pad. I can draw on it though. But yeah, soulfulascension.com is where you guys can book the birth chart. Um, Other than that, yeah, give me some feedback. Let me know where you see some of the similarities within yourself and what I've talked about just in the signs that are ruling some of these houses. All right. I'm gonna talk to y'all into the comments. Peace. Enjoy the rest of y'all day.